Good.
I just started the recording. We're good to go.
Hi, is this full screen?
Literally.
Yeah, that's the Hi, good afternoon, everyone. We are here from the pod one, Miguel, me, and Jason, and we are going to have a presentation about code quality and what we're gonna learn on today's presentations. So we're gonna learn what is code quality and why it is important. And definitely we'll go with some other code quality tools. We'll have some hands-on experience and example of it. And then to begin, my friend Jason will start with some story, and then we're gonna go with that.
So we have a gallery of bad code here. It's just examples of poorly named code, no documentation on it. Variable names being bad. Get this one open. Oh, it's open.
Save.
Wait, wrong thing. Oh, move. So here's an example of some bad code. Okay, you know what, screw this. We're doing it live. I have no idea what's going on with this laptop.
Some JavaScript there.
Wait, what slide was about? For example, on
Third, on one slide over there. So this is pretty simple module. If you didn't see simple calculator here, you would have to sit here and stare at this for a while to figure out what it does. So you have a function here just called A, S, N, D, C. So if you just looked at this without any documentation, you kept these variable names, you had a difficult time trying to figure out what it all did. So what we can do to improve this code is come back and rename all these functions and variables. So let's see. This slice of the code examples. Actually, I have it right here. So this is the same exact module, but you can see I went and renamed all the functions, added comments, and all that. Did all that using Pilot. I used the suggestions it gave me. So now you can see it's an add method, subtract, multiply, divide. Exactly. We'll get to what Pilot is. But it's a lint tool that will, like a lint roller, it'll go over your code. See, tell you we can improve on. So code quality is essential for developing maintainable, readable, and ever-free software. Basically, like I said, it makes your code easier to read. It it identifies potential issues early and enforces coding standards using every language will have its own naming conventions and stuff. We'll also show you how to integrate it with your code. And let's see. Poor code quality is an umbrella term for multiple issues with the code base. Code that exhibits buggy behavior, slow implementation, messy code with high coupling and low cohesion, aka spaghetti code. I think we've all seen that. Unmaintainable code, and usages of obsolete libraries and frameworks, code repetition that leads to costly refactoring.
So I'm going to cover SonarQube. It is a piece of software that's meant to check over and check the quality of your code via setting the logic, well, not logic, but like setting gates that checks and verifies if your code meets the standards of the prerequisites that have been set by the person who set up the SonarQube server. So It checks for vulnerabilities, it smells the code, and it checks the standards as said. You can integrate it with your repo so that it checks that live, and it also spams your email. Anytime somebody does something that you don't want them to, it will say, hey, this person sent out bad code that may either be unoptimized or not format standards. And you can either set to reject that push, or you can allow it to go through, but it's in your email inbox highlighted. That's just one example of what it does. Since it's a server, you can have it both for local instances, or you can have it running off of your own network server that you connected to. So I'm going to run through a quick example of how to get it set up. It's very finicky, only because you can tell it's made for industry. It's not really user friendly. Like the first file you get isn't even an installer. It's not as clear cut as anything like VS Code or anything where you just run an exe and everything works. No, you need to set this up yourself. You need to set the configuration files. You need to tell it what Java version to use, and if you use the wrong one, it will work. So we're going to try to manage to do that here in this instance. So I'm going to open up the location, and this is the file that you will have. I hope everyone else on Zoom can see that, but you'll start out with a zip file. Obviously it's already extracted, and it's SonarQube 10.7, whatever version is already pushed out. I'm going to open PowerShell because I could do it through Git, but I don't remember the commands to do it through Git since I did it through PowerShell myself. So we're going to navigate to that directory. Once it decides, there we go. Take that input. Okay, so before doing this, you want to tell it what Java version to use. And there's a command for that. Yeah, on my notes that I can't access right now.
No, notes.
Yeah. And that command would be, well, first you have to find the location of the Java instance that you're going to be using, or I should say Java version. It's going to be an SDK. So, oh yeah, that's another thing. It has to be the SDK. The link's on the PowerPoint slide on the background. So I believe it's under it's going to be under your drive in your programs file. That's where it lives in your user profile. I can find that program file. Oh yeah, it is in Java. It needs to be in program files. Program files has. Yeah. Oh wait,
Yeah.
I'm ahead of myself. I didn't need to go into the user profile. It's in program files under the Java program. And here's the JDK we'll be using. We don't need to navigate exactly to where it is. That's why the autofill on this exists. So with the command And the JDK location. This command will tell it to look for this specific version of the JDK and run the instance off of it. So it's been applied and set. Oh, well, I mean, yeah, I need to get rid of, I need to actually name the file what it's called and make sure that is not there. There. And once that's running, we can now finally begin to start our server up. So we'll navigate to SonarQube. We're already in the file from when I started like 10 minutes ago. We're gonna list out what's in it. So we're gonna go into the bin. Once in the bin, we're running on Windows. So we're gonna go into Windows. And within this file is the batch file that you can start the server instance on. So we're going to run that if it allows me to in. There we go. Now you can tell it where the JDK is for Java on the properties folder of Sonar itself, but I had like a 50-50 win rate on that, whether or not it would actually tell where it is. It's currently executing right now, but this is an i3 computer, so it might take a moment. Okay, so yeah, you see it starting the instance. Screen this. So from here, it actually lists the HTTP of the Sonar server. So you would use that to connect to the SonarQube interface locally through your computer. So I know it's not done yet, but I'm going to preemptively plug it into the browser. I'm going to close these instances that are loading. And I'm going to check back on status. So I'm pretty sure Elasticsearch, that process is looking for the JDK, which we pointed to earlier. When it finds it, it's going to start running it, and we'll then be able to access Sonar. Okay, there we go. And it has stopped. Let's see if it worked. Okay, it did not launch. And you could take the time to debug that, but it might be blocked by the firewall, but since it's a local client, I don't think it is. I'm going to run through though. And see if my instance is still able to run. Okay, that instance also doesn't run. But there is a backup. I do have some videos pointing out of what it should look like. So I'm going to mute the audio because I really only care about the interface itself, which you wouldn't be able to run unless you have that process active on the computer. Um, so
Let's hold that so doesn't look at it with all the things in.
this is a setup video, which it's what we just did. We ran it. Their instance was successful though. The specific JDK versions that I just went over. And this is what that interface looks like. It's dated because this is what it looked like 3 years ago, but it looks similar as it is currently on screen. Now, under here, you will see projects, issues, rules, quality profiles, quality gates, and administration. Under each corresponding tab, that's where you would tweak the settings for the gates. Obviously, you can see that it has integration for GitLab, GitHub, and I think they added Azure recently. And Bucket was, I guess, prominent 3 years ago. I don't know if they support that anymore. We're gonna go back to the slide. This video is an instance of the quality analysis, which we'll reference in a bit. So this is a GIF of what customizing the quality gates should look like if it runs. This is presenter right, isn't it? Should have been good. But essentially what you would do here is navigate under the projects. No, not under projects. This is the modern bar. I got this working on a local instance on my desktop at home. As you can see, it's the HTTP address mentioned earlier, and you would go under the quality gates up here in this part of the banner. And you get to set custom values in, like, coverage is one attribute you get to set. It's just saying like how much of this code was checked or was able to be checked by SonarQube. And there's also another attribute where it checks I believe the optimization of the code, and you can also tell it a template for what the code should look like.
Make sure
I just opened up whatever this is. So integration with the CI/CD, what you would do on your GitHub, and since GitHub always runs, I will actually be able to go over what you would do. Let's see if I can open up this SonarQube instance. I'm gonna give this a run. One last go. Oh, there we go. This is what it running with GitHub looks like. But I wanted to go to the previous slide because I'm pretty sure it had something I wanted to show. There we go. These are the quality profiles that are preset based on whatever language you have set. So I'm going to see if I can start presenting from slide. Again. So through Git, you'll be able to set a YML file UML. It will set the properties of the action, like through GitHub Actions, and run the configuration based off what you set it as. Based on what you put in the UML, you can identify whether or not you use the Mervin or any other code quality review method. These are established, I believe, in the industry, and they are just different ways that SonarQube would check for that quality. The reason why I mention it is because on the slide I want to present, all right. So you covered this bit of code already. That's the one I had open in Visual Studio. Let's see. So you asked what a linter was. A linter is a tool that analyzes code to detect potential errors, bugs, stylistic issues, and violations of coding standards. It also checks for syntax, style enforcement, error detection, and code consistency. As you can see, it's like a roller. That's where it gets its name. The different name conventions, every language kind of has their own. It's set up by the community and kind of by the language. They're not exactly enforced, but it's good to have some type of standard so everybody can look at something and be like, oh, I know exactly what that variable is just based on its casing. So like I said, different languages that have their different naming conventions. Python uses PEP8, is that how it's pronounced? PEP8 style guideline, which is snake case, which is lowercase underscore second part of the word. Pascal case where you have a capital letter, then you denote the second word by another capital letter.
And you got Screaming Snake case. Java, you have Camel case, Pascal, and also Screaming case. I'm sorry. It's just when it's all caps separated by underscores. That's used for constants. Here you can go to that website, peps.python.org. If you click on it, it'll bring you to this. And it, as you can see, they have a bunch of different categories you can look at just to see what the guidelines are. But just the key parts are your indentation rules. Instead of tabbing, they want you to do 4 spaces. Every line has a character limit, just so it doesn't extend too far where you have to scroll the page to see the rest of the code. And for blank lines, it's the space in between your functions in different lines. Pylint is an example of a lint tool. It's deals with Python, as you can tell by the pi prefix to lint. Like we said 100 times already, it's checks for errors, code and standards, and it smells the code, which means it can look at the code and kind of understand, analyze it without running the code. So to install Pylint, you open up your terminal and you run pi-m. This is supposed to be a GIF. Okay, so our GIFs are kind of broken in presentation mode. You can see, use that command right there and it'll install your Pylint. And that's what it should look like when you install it. Oh, I'm sorry. This was I'm sorry, this is how you install pip. My bad. I got ahead of myself. You have to have pip installed to install Pylint. This part right here is showing that I had Python 3.96 installed. Then you install pip. That's my bad. Now we install Pylint. Use pip to install Pylint, like I said. And this is what it should look like once you install it. And then it tells you to upgrade it, but I ignored that. And an alternate version is if you open up Visual Code, you can add an extension called Pylint. And what's cool about this is that you can, I'll show an example later, but it'll highlight exactly where your code's messed up and it'll pop up with the error code you can click on. It'll bring you to the documentation, explain what's wrong with your code. Here's a short little class I had. It's just adding 2 numbers. And I run Pylint just to see what I would score just on what 4 lines of code. So if you run it, I have 10 and 20 in there, you have 30, which should be your result. So this is where I check it using Pylint. And you can see I scored a 2.5 out of 10. So it tells me right here, this is module docstring, this is function of method docstring, and add the constant name result doesn't conform to their standards. And like I say, you can go to the website right here. I'm not going to open it because it's a laptop, so it's the last league.
Still, can you make me go first so that we can change the device? Because it's working perfectly on my device. We are so sorry. Because we thought like this device would act perfectly for those JDK version 17 plus. So now this will work.
That was interesting. Sorry, where was I?
But the demo will not be able, but other recorded video will work perfectly on this one.
I think I'm. Oh no, I have some gifts later on.
Can I-
Yeah.
You can complete that.
I believe I have a picture of it, so I'm not gonna wait, no, we're on a new laptop. I probably can. See? No, okay, never mind. No, it's yeah, I didn't control click. Oh, okay. It doesn't pop up. That's no, I have a picture of it later on. Just that. Keep going right there. Yeah, control click. Okay. So as you can see, you have your
I think
you can't see
share the entire screen.
like okay. Screen. Yeah, no, screen one. I know that's just sharing it to Zoom. Here, let's just go back to this. That's what it was on before, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. I have a picture of it. It will be fine. No, where's the PowerPoint? Is that everywhere? Okay. So this is the website. As you can see, you have fatal, error, warning, convention, and information. If we go back to our error code, the hell just happened? You can see the prefix right here, C0114. That C is telling us it's a convention error. Oh yeah, I forgot y'all can't see my mouse anymore. So we used the website and I went down and found the error code C0114. And then it'll even show you an example of what it's looking for. It's looking for doc strings, which is enclosed in triple quotes. And that's like in Java doc when you just explain what a function or method does. Oh, I can draw. Okay, okay. I don't think that. Oh, okay, I see now. Oh, it has a laser pointer. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. All right. All right, moving on. So I went back to our simple method we had, our simple code we had. I just said, hey, this module demonstrates a simple function for adding two numbers. So a doc string is a special type of document, like I said, with like Java doc, where you're just explaining what that method does. And given that I got a 2.5 out of 10 last time, by just adding that little doc string, what do y'all think we're going to score next? How many points do y'all think we went up? 3 over anything under over? All right. We went up 2.5 points to a whopping 5 out of 10. So just by adding that one little doc string, but I think we could do better. So this time we're going to use Visual Studio Code, like the extension to see what that has to offer. And like I said, you can just hover over the function name, and then it'll pop up with the C0116 error code. And they'll ask if you want to go to the website, I'll bring you right to the error code. So if we when I clicked on that, it brought me to here. And like you can see, it showed you an example of bad code and good code. It was the same thing. I'm just it's in doc strings explain what's going on. So I added you add two numbers A and B, return the result. And it tells you it's going to return an integer, and it takes in two integers. So I mean, this is a pretty simple example given it's just an addition method, but so the last code we had. Wait, my bad. So we went up another 2.5 points to 7.5 out of 10 this time, doing our checks. And our last error it's given us is the constant name result doesn't meet the uppercase requirements for a constant. But there's a way around that. If you want to say, hey, I want to keep result lowercase because I like it that way, you can put in this little comment, length disable equals invalid name, and whatever you put right here, whatever error code you put right there is going to ignore. So let's see. So if I run it again, it's just gonna ignore that and give me a perfect 10 out of 10. I think. Yep, perfect 10 out of 10.
What did you do?
I put it in this little comment right here. I don't know if you can see it. It's just saying, hey, ignore this line, ignore the error in this line for invalid name, because it was saying result needs to be all caps. So instead of naming it result in all caps or added underscore two added numbers, whatever, you could just put, hey, ignore this for me. No, just on that one line. You can, oh, what's up? Yeah, you can go in and configure like Pylon and say, hey, these are my standards, adhere to these standards instead of PEP 8. I didn't really get a chance to dive into that too much, but I will one day, because I thought that was pretty interesting. Just to be like, hey, for this project specifically, I want this naming convention for these types of variables, or I want this much space in between methods. Did that answer your question, or avoid answering your question rather? So yeah, now we had the code all cleaned up. We got a perfect 10 out of 10. Oh yeah, I forgot to point this out. It shows you what you scored on the previous run. So you can say, hey, I scored a 7.5, but this time I got plus 2.5, and I got a 10 out of 10. So more on doc strings, you can use a help function inside Python by running Python and saying, hey, from example, which was my class name, import add numbers, the function. And you can put in help and then the function name you want help with, and it'll pop up. It'll pop up telling you what whatever you put in the doc string. So now you know, hey, this is a function that takes in two numbers, adds them together, and returns a result. All right. Two more.
Okay. You want to go with that video first?
Sure.
So let me go back to the video where it wasn't working properly. Setting up.
You're fine. You're fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so as described before, you can set different rules to what it sees, and it will check the individual lines and compare it to what is expected based on formatting options. This will be specified in the aforementioned UML file.uml. And you would push that to a repo. So what that would look like is actually on the next slide. This is what it looks like with GitHub actions with CI/CD integration. It will run, check it, and if it fails, it will give you an error with a code that you can later debug based on what parameters you predefined it with. It will tell you what exactly the error was, and from there you can go on about fixing it. Now this happens automatically with every push and pull. So every single time, like for example, if it's when we were doing our capstones, let's say it wasn't just the documents we were sending over. It was actual code we were pushing out to production. This would either stop it or just flag the code that we pushed that was bad, and prevent, I guess, the next CrowdStrike. I don't know why that happened with technology like this, but I guess with proper application and use case, it's preventable. And that would help with just the management aspect of it, because in a production to scale where you have like a company of 1,000 people, each person is producing like 10,000 lines of code a day. You don't have the time to sit there and review each individual line of code. So this will check if it breaks anything, if it has any interrupt processes that interrupts any other process that is essential for production in whatever project or app it may be. You could also get it running off of existing CIs and CDs through organizations, but that's an enterprise feature. that I wanted to explore, but it's locked behind that paywall. It's like $100 something. But anyway, I'm kind of going on a tangent now. Part of the criteria for part of our motivation for exploring SonarQube for this project is because we're expected to use this for Raspberry Pis. You'd have to use Debian. I was planning on emulating it with Raspbian and showing it from there how you would push code from directly from a Raspberry Pi. Because we would be, push from a computer to Raspberry Pi, because we'd be using that ideally to push good code through our kiosk. So we'd be able to manage it remotely and it'd check automatically. So it'd be streamlined and quick. Anything else you want to add? No. It's a shame that I couldn't get it to run because literally every interaction with this program is through the web interface. I'll see if I can add that. I will definitely add that to the resource. And I'll put an example, like a detailed example through the workshop. This time I'll just focus on the local running of it instead of focusing on the CI/CD aspects of it, because I feel like while it's important to do the CI/CD aspects of it, you need to at least get it running. Obviously, there's issues with getting this to run to begin with. That's all I have from this part. If you have any questions about SonarCube, feel free to ask now. I know I was a bit vague in what it does because I can't really access it, but it is a large tool. It is on the scale of setting up your own server. You could 30 plus hours into this. I did lose sleep over this trying to get it to work. So if you have any questions, I guess just ask. And don't be afraid to ask our pod in the future. By the time we get things rolled out, we'll be able to answer it.
I might try to set it up inside the Swing Lab. What's the Swing Lab setup so people touch it on Raspberry Pis maybe?
So like like the gate control itself and set the properties of the gate control. Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of aspects to Sonar from just curriculum. It has components of networking because it has HTTP protocol, which you can set up. It's local hosted, so it has technically virtualization, which is an aspect of OS. It has all these other things that we did go over, and you would need to know in detail.
So what's the difference between the sonar thing and the lint?
Well, SonarCube is, from my understanding, not just local, but it's also server side. So it interacts directly with a repo. So from what I saw from Jason,
Pilot's local.
somewhat from what I saw from Jason's part of the presentation, the linter is good for quick, get it done, check yourself, and then push it out. You would layer it probably for the best optimal use case.
Makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah.
From here.
So, okay, like so far, we have gone through what is code quality and why it is important. And then we have gone through, even we have some technical error. We just had some experience of SonarQube, and then Jason too, he went through a pilot. Now I will go through. Oh, we have moved to the last, yeah. Free tier. What is free tier? Free tier is a tool, right? So it's an opinionated code formatted, which is supported by many languages and integrated on most editors. So the formal definitions is free tier is a very powerful opinionated code formatted that ensure a constant code style across entire code base, improving readability and maximizing formatting related merge conflict. It takes care of formatting code automatically regardless of the original style, which allows developers to focus more on writing the logic of the code rather than worrying about style and inconsistency. So Pre-theory is supported by multiple languages, like JavaScript, Python, HTML, CSS, JSON, GraphQL, TypeScript, Markdown, YAML, and many other. Those are those the examples for now. And then why we need pre-theory? So your code is formatted and unsafe. Like you'll write code and then they have like a lot of errors. Then once you save it, but we have to first install. I'll go with that video, and then once we save that the wrong formatted code, it will automatically format like correctly. Like not logically but syntactically. If we didn't have comma like semicolon on the end, they're gonna put your semicolon by itself, and then do everything. And then we just talked about the consistencies, reading reliability. Once our code is fine, and then written it like clearly, we can read it out, and then we can just go through the code line by line and find it out if anything is wrong. And the main important thing we just talked about mods conflict. Now for this kiosk costless kiosk project, I think like we need to have a lot of common time for the code and everything. So whenever we mods, and then let's say if I make some mistake, and then Jason he tried to mods it, and that mistakes that will automatically have like correct format of the code, so that we will not have error on our main code later on. Right. So let's have an example on this one. So when we see this is just JSON file, like there is so many arguments passes through this line. So when we see only this line, oh, hold on.
Oh, yeah, it's on the laser pointer.
Laser pointer.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we see only this line, like some might feel like overwhelming, feel like, oh my God, what is this so long? And then I just try to screenshot for this little bit longer too. I could not make it, but sometimes we have to go and then scroll all the screens all the way in, and then again come back. That will be like too much headache when we work on large coding thing. So like what it does, like after I save this one, and then it for that thing went like this. Now, okay, it's this exactly same thing, but they just break the line, and then now we can read it really easily, and then have like everything on the same page. We don't have to worry about scrolling right and left, and then we don't have to worry about if we miss something or not. So other reason are like unified code style. They avoid nitpicking, and then it's like for myself, like I was thinking to share some beginner story, but I think we are just running out of time. But it is very much helpful.
Don't feel rushed. Like, so take your time and explain. Don't feel like pressured. If you need to go a little bit over, we can do like what we did last time. And if people have to leave, they can leave.
Mhm.
And I don't want you to feel pressured to give the delivery.
Alright, so like even it's very much good and large scale kind of thing when we work in a group. But like for example, like I work myself for I don't like I'm a transfer actually, like they call it here Java 1583 and something like that. But I used to be in a different university, and we called it I forget the code name, like CS 153 or something like that. But actually it was just teaching a Java. And then while typing, like in the beginning, I used to make a lot of mistakes, like forgetting about semicolon, forgetting about like those curly brackets, and then like even those continuously writing on one line. That was like too much headache. And then once these things I introduced with these things, it was back. And then when I put this on my visual code, it was like so nice. I don't have to worry about that much. Like once I control S, like I used to save that code that was like well formatted, and my program used to run without any syntax error. Logic error is different part. When I'm talking about logic error is different thing. And then that build up my confidence. Once that happened, like before when I was doing my program wasn't running properly, and I was like, oh my God, like I'm spending a lot of time and it's not running, and my like confidence level was down. But once that part was solved, like most of the time in that class, like we used to have syntax error rather than logic error, right? And then once this part was solved, and then my confidence was boosted, and kind of thing. Right. And then as we talk, that's gonna save the lot of time. and things like it's very easy to adapt. Like I know like we are presenting on the same thing, but Sonar and everything was so hard just to install and run. But on this one is locally, and it's very easy to install, and then and very easy to use and clean up existing code base. So that's we talked about those things for new line and kind of thing. Also, even though Frittery is one of the few tools that fully automated enforcing a style guide, while it may not format it every single line exactly the way we might prefer. Don't you think unique benefits like time saving and consistency, and then error corrections make it like worth of using these things? What do you guys think?
Yes, I spend a lot of time trying to format it myself, so it'll be really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I feel too like it's worth using it or installing in our device and then coding it accordingly, right? Then the most common very good part of this one is like it is supported by most of all the editors that we used it. You know, like we use Sublime, we use Vim. Most of the time, those are like we can download the extension, and then we can just do this one even in VS Code, right? A lot of us, we have that one. And then WebStorm, me too, when I was looking details into it, I just found this WebStorm. Like, I don't know, but it says it's built in on that one. It might be a more useful. We can go ahead and have a little bit more explore on it, but that is a built-in support. So rest of other we have to go and do it. So while installing, yeah, I know like it's gonna be a little bit problem, but let me try it and then do it once again if I can open it.
Nice. Not looking scared.
It's disconnected.
External display is disconnected. Oh, go go back to it. Just share your screen. If you're on the website, I think this is I know you are screen share.
Yeah, that's how it looks like. Their website is like really simple, and then so like we can try it if we need something on like we can try online too first just to check and kind of thing. But I have explained more on this video, right? How to install it, and then how to do it. So let me try to play this one. Hopefully that. Oh.
And when I save this file, Pretty will automatically format this code, so I won't have to worry about things like semicolons, curly braces, new lines and spacing, etc. So install Prettier in VS Code, go ahead and click on the extension button down here.
God. My bad. Like, I don't know.
What we're gonna do is we're gonna install Prettier, and when I save this file, you automatically.
This I already explained like
have to worry
how
about
it's
things
gonna
like
work.
semicolons, curly braces, new lines and spacing, etc. Okay? So install Prettier in VS Code, go ahead and click on the extension button down here. And once you click on it, type in Prettier. And it should be the first result. Go ahead, click on it, and you just make sure it's the one by Prettier with a bunch of downloads. It should have nearly 10 million downloads. Click install, and it will say this extension is enabled globally. Now, in order for Prettier to automatically format your code when you save, there's a couple of settings you have to set up. So go ahead and type in command comma, and that will bring up the settings. And the first thing you want to type in is formatter. Now, once you type that in, there's a couple settings you want to look at. First one, default formatter should say Prettier. All right, if
Yeah,
this is not set, then Prettier will not be your default formatter. And the other thing, format on save should be checked. And this tells Prettier to automatically format your code when you save the file. All right, so make sure that's checked, and then the next thing what we can do is actually type in prettier, and this will bring up the prettier settings for the extension. Now, there's a ton of settings that you can adjust. You know, you can set, you know, whether you want double quotes or single quotes, and you know, for example, arrow functions here include parentheses around a sole arrow function parameter. There's a bunch of things that you can set, and we're not going to go over all the settings in this video. But feel free to fool around with it and adjust the settings to whatever you want, or whatever code style guide that you're following. There is one setting though I want you to pay attention to. If you scroll down, you'll see a setting that says prettier require config. And this should be checked, and it's recommended to be checked by the prettier documentation. And all this really is it requires a config file to be in the root of your project in order for prettier to work. It is very important to have, because if you were to ever import someone else's code and this was not selected and you hit save, it would actually format, you know, all the code to whatever settings you have in VS Code. So that's not recommended, as it would, you know, maybe your the code you're importing already has certain formatting rules that it's following, and you're basically just, you know, set everything to whatever you have in the settings. So make sure that this is selected, okay? And again, this just forces you to create a config file in order for prettier to work. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and close out of the settings. And remember, like I said, you need a config file for it to work. So if I were to save right now, this would not automatically format, even though I have installed. So to create a config file, go ahead and create a new file in the root of your project. Call it .prettier RC. All right. Now in the prettier RC, which is the config file, just put an empty set of curly braces. Now normally you would see settings in here for the prettier extension, but because we have it installed in VS Code, you can simply specify the settings in VS Code. You don't have to put anything in here. But you know, if you were to import someone else's code, they might have a config file, and they would just give that to you so you can follow the same formatting that they did. So go ahead and for now, just put a set of empty curly braces in here. And now if we go back to test.js and we save the file, you can see that it automatically formatted the code, so it's not ugly as heck.
So we all see that how first it was all messy, and then later on it was ugly, and then we just have that very nice code. But I just want to make sure sometimes, like myself, like whenever I open the .html file and kind of thing, because that's not really formatted, they might need something thing. So we can have another extension called filter.ignore it. So that will help us like to filter it out, or either to implement these functions on this extension file or not. Let's say we have Java .java extension, and then the .js extension, and then that will work only on that one. But if that pretty saw any file extension with .html, that will not auto format it on that time. So if we have any questions.
By the way, it's 10 minutes past time, so if you gotta go, you can skedaddle.
Yeah, and definitely we are part one. I'm repeating this again, and then if you guys need any help down the road about like correcting it syntactically, we are always there. And then like Miguel said, we're gonna post it on our pod and then in the resources section, just to make sure like whatever we have, this one, that one. Thank you. I'm lost.
All right, part 2.
No, part two.
Yeah, we stay here until I get that server on.